Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze the Play-Doh. Feels so good to me. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze the Play-Doh. Easy peasy. Poke, poke, poke the Play-Doh. Feels so good to me. Poke, poke, poke the Play-Doh. Easy peasy. Roll, roll, roll the Play-Doh. Feels so good to me. Roll, roll, roll the Play-Doh. Easy peasy. Pinch, pinch, pinch the Play-Doh. Feels so good to me. Pinch, pinch, pinch the Play-Doh. Easy peasy. Pat, pat, pat the Play-Doh. Feels so good to me. Pat, pat, pat the Play-Doh. Easy peasy. Well, I bet you can guess what this Facebook Live is about. It's about Play-Doh. And several teachers had commented to me that their administrator said they didn't want to see Play-Doh out in the kindergarten or the pre-K or whatever. And so I put together this 30-plus page book all about Play-Doh, what children can learn from Play-Doh, different activities that you can do for math skills, literacy, STEM, and it's all free, and you can download it. So, and I had my friend Penelope Play-Doh help me make this book. So I wanted to get started talking a little bit about why Play-Doh is important and how we can use it in our classrooms. Play-Doh can be just like a worksheet or a video game or anything else. It is a teaching tool. And what's good about Play-Doh is it reinforces what we know about the brain. The only way information gets to the brain is through the senses. When you tap and swipe, you don't get a lot going to the brain. But when you add that kinesthetic, that sensory motor, you get a lot more information in the brain. When children play with Play-Doh, it's good for their social skills. You just put Play-Doh out with a bunch of kids. You don't have to say anything. They'll just start talking and playing, interacting, and using their imaginations. It's so open-ended. Play-Doh can be a dinosaur. It can be a cookie. It can be anything the children want it to be. And that's another good thing, because so many things we give children, there's just, you know, a right way or a wrong way. And with Play-Doh, every child can experience success. Play-Doh is also good for emotional skills. A lot of children have the fidgets and they're all wound up, and when you give them the Play-Doh, it helps them release some of that energy and some of those things. So all of these ideas that I'm sharing with you, you're going to find in the book. So I think one thing as early childhood administrators, sometimes we have to help people who do not have a background in child growth and development understand the value in Play-Doh and blocks and all of those hands-on things we do. Yes, it looks like we're playing, but there are a lot of skills children are developing, and it's all about the whole child. Now, I've got recipes in there for homemade Play-Doh, and I always made homemade Play-Doh in my classroom. I had an electric skillet that I used for most of my cooking activities. And then Carolyn Koslowski has a really good recipe for Bisquick Play-Doh that you can make in your microwave. So you'll find those there. And I've also got lots of other magic mixtures and gooey things that you can make, and children love it. And Play-Doh really didn't come out until the 1950s, but ever since there have been children who played with mud and clay, and they've molded things and made things. So it's just a wonderful thing to do. Now, first I'd suggest you have an open Play-Doh center in the room with just Play-Doh, just materials, and I've got a list of all sorts of materials, cookie cutters and cupcake papers and straws and scissors and knives and forks, and so many of those small motor skills are just strengthened when you use Play-Doh. It's just like sending those little fingers to the gym. I'd suggest having a defined area for the children to use the Play-Doh, lunchroom trays, old plastic placemats, different things like that work really well. And just a few simple rules like keep the Play-Doh where it is. And, sometimes you have to model how to pick up the little pieces. And so many children don't have these tools at home. And so we assume that they know how to pick up the pieces. And so that's where modeling comes in so handy when you do these things with the children. One thing that you can do with the Play-Doh, and that's why I like to make my own, is you can change it for different sensory experiences and different seasons. So like in October, it's fun to make it orange and then add a little pumpkin spice. For Christmas, you can make it green and add mint. For Valentine's Day, just let the children knead in some dry cocoa and it'll turn kind of chocolate brown and it'll smell like little candies. And I guess I should mention also, you have to be aware of the age of the children and supervise it. Of course, I wouldn't give the one with the chocolate to 2-year-olds because they're going to want to eat it, but your older kids can have it. But always supervise and be aware of allergies, because some children who have gluten issues need a special kind of Play-Doh. Always have the children wash their hands before and after using Play-Doh. And now with so many viruses going around, I like what one teacher did. Each month she had a parent volunteer make Play-Doh and put it in little zip bags with the children's names. So each month they had a different color Play-Doh with their name on it and help keep things a little bit more sanitary that way. So some things you can do with Play-Doh. If you make the primary colors, it's fun to give it to the children and let them squeeze it into secondary colors. It's fun to just give them a plain ball of Play-Doh, punch a hole in it, and put some food coloring in it. And then this is called a surprise ball because they have to mold it and squeeze it and squeeze it and squeeze it. And they don't know what color they're going to get when they keep squeezing it. And oh my goodness, look here. Mine is green. Another thing that you can do with Play-Doh, and I'm showing you all sorts of activities. They're in the book for literacy, for math, and just for plain old fun. This one, if you take different little plastic animals and roll the Play-Doh around it to make an egg, the children can pull it apart and they can be archaeologists and they can dig through the Play-Doh and oh my goodness, there's a dinosaur that came out of the egg, and you can give them little toothpicks and things and tweezers to scrape it away, and then you can let them remold it so a friend can check it out. Oh, and another thing that's fun to do with Play-Doh with the older kids is Play-Doh Pictionary. So you divide them up into teams, and one person gets the Play-Doh and you whisper a category in their ear and they make something from the Play-Doh while the other team tries to guess what it is. It's just like the Pictionary game, except you do it with Play-Doh, and that'd probably be fun for a group of grown-ups as well too. You can make some little cards. This one is called the Build-A-Bear, and I just have some little step-by-step directions that they can look and follow the directions and make their own little bear. And you can do this with all sorts of characters. I also have a Play-Doh book, and this was a very popular thing in my classroom. So on one file folder, it says, can you make curves? And the children roll the Play-Doh and put it on the curves. And the next page says, can you make lines? And they roll the Play-Doh and put it on the lines. And I think the whole concept of line and curve is so important for children to understand for those pre-writing skills. Next page says, can you make shapes? So here we are doing our math standards. And then the last page, just for fun, says, what else can you make? And I have some different figures that they can look at. There are boundless Play-Doh mats on the internet that you can download different things for numbers. You can download things for colors. What I like to do is to make Play-Doh plates, and these are just little clear plastic plates. I traced around the letter with a marker on both sides so it wouldn't rub off. And again, the children roll the Play-Doh and they put it on the letter and then make something that begins with that sound. You could also have number plates and they make that number of objects. They can take a number of objects and break them and decompose them into different amounts. So how many, if you had the plate with 6, how many different ways can you make 6? All sorts of different math and reading skills. Another thing that's good for pre-writing skills and for the kids when they begin to write letters and write words is to give them Play-Doh, let them pat it out, and then use a golf tee to write in the Play-Doh. And so it just takes a little more energy. A good thing to do too when you do these literacy activities is to add paper and pencil. So after you do it with the golf tee and the Play-Doh, then they can write it on the paper. Or like this idea with making a little cookie out of Play-Doh, and then they take the magnetic letters and press it in there, and then they could write the letter after that. You can use Play-Doh to make bubble words, and then they can trace over it. I've even used it for punctuation marks, that they make the different punctuation marks, and then their friends have to read the sentence. This one has one-to-one matching. And so they could make a banana for each monkey. They could make a flower for each stem. And so you can see, depending on your age level and on your skills, you can take Play-Doh and instead of doing a worksheet, think about doing a Play-Doh. And you can laminate these things, but I found it's even cheaper and easier just to use these clear sheet protectors, and then you can take them out and remove them. Another way that you can use Play-Doh to extend a nursery rhyme or a story like this one, after we did Humpty Dumpty, they could make Humpty Dumpty on the wall, or after I read a nonfiction book, I could give them Play-Doh and let them create something that they learned from the book. And of course, who doesn't want to do little Jack Horner sat in a corner eating his Christmas pie. He stuck in his thumb and pulled out a plum and said, "What a good boy am I." And this reminds me that all through children's lives, they're going to have an opportunity to do technical skills and to do different things. But golly gee, if you don't put Play-Doh on your thumb when you're 4 or 5, you're never going to get to do that, are you? And I keep talking about pre-K and K, but this is just as valuable for first graders. In fact, one second grade teacher told me that she put Silly Putty on her school supply list and ask all the parents to send in Silly Putty. And then the second graders could keep it in their desk, and if they were stressed, they could use it, or if they finished their work early, they could do it. And then she also would put things on the board that related to what they were working on that they could make with their Play-Doh or their Silly Putty. You can, this one, I love this one. This one is good for Earth Day. It's blue Play-Doh, and you can show them the globe and talk about water is blue. And then you give them they take off little pinches of green and stick it on there. And you might even tie in their 7 continents and sing, "I've got the whole world in my hand. I've got North and South America in my hand. I've got Europe, Asia, Africa in my hand. I've got Australia and Antarctica in my hand. I've got the whole globe in my hand," or the whole world. Anyway, when they put the green continents on the blue ocean, and then they roll it, isn't that a cool looking earth? And then you could let them write a story about how we can be good monitors of our earth. You can tie Play-Doh in with stem. They can make a cookie and then take a shell or a rock or leaves or different things that you might be studying about and put the imprint there. And then you can talk about how are they like and how are they different. Another fun thing to do for STEM is to collect different things out on the playground, and they can create little scenes with plastic animals. This Play-Doh would also be a great thing to take out on the playground. You could set up a little Play-Doh center out on the playground where children could take natural items and create scenes. And then, of course, STEM, straws and toothpicks and pipe cleaners and sticks and all sorts of things. Children can create three-dimensional objects, and they can plan and they can build, and if it doesn't work, that's the great thing about Play-Doh. You take it down and then you can start all over again. And then you can also, make all sorts of little silly characters with googly eyes and pipe cleaners. And I could go on and on and on and on, but I'm just going to close and I'm going to tell you, make sure you download your free Play-Doh Power Book. And if anybody gives you a hard time about Play-Doh in your classroom, please tell them to call me personally, and I'll help them understand the value of Play-Doh. It is time to say goodbye to all my friends. It is time to say goodbye to all my friends. It is time to say goodbye. Give a smile and wink your eye. It is time to say goodbye to all my friends. Thumbs up for Play-Doh. Have a great day.